I'm David, producer of the podcast series Myers-Briggs for Midlife Career Changers. Edythe Richards is a Myers-Briggs Master Practitioner and career counsellor in the Washington, D.C. metro area. She has over 15 years' experience using the Myers-Briggs in her work with career changers, helping them to better understand their motivation in order to secure meaningful employment. Today we're going to look at the ESFJ personality type and what people with this type need in a career in order for it to be satisfying. Edythe, could you provide an overview of the Myers-Briggs ESFJ type, please?
Hi, David, and thanks for the introduction. I'm thrilled to be talking about ESFJs, and I hope this information will be useful for our ESFJ listeners and those who know people with ESFJ preferences. ESFJ stands for extroverted, meaning they're energized by the external world of people and things. Sensing, they receive information in a concrete and practical way with their five senses. Feeling, they make harmonious decisions based on the impact on other people. And judging, they prefer to live in a structured and goal-oriented way. So this type's motto could be organizing and accomplishing tasks of value while keeping everyone happy. ESFJs are known as the hosts and hostesses of the world due to their graciousness and their effectiveness in dealing with others. They'll bring harmony and goodwill to almost any situation in which they find themselves. And at the same time, they'll impose a structure and order. At work, ESFJs are committed to the people and organizations they work with. They're team players, and they do their best to help everyone fit in.
From that brief description, it sounds like we may find a lot of ESFJs in management roles, organizing people to get a job done.
Yes, management and administration are areas where we often see ESFJs gain great career satisfaction. I've heard many ESFJs say that they assumed responsibility for others from a very early age. In their younger years, this could have been in volunteer roles or as the mediator or listening ear in a club or with a group of friends. Interestingly enough, they've often been described as the most outgoing of the 16 types.
I've also heard that they're one of the most common Myers-Briggs types.
Yes, that's right. Up to 13% of the American population identify as ESFJ. And it's often referred to as a preference for females in many Western societies. For ESFJs, 70% identify as female, while 30% identify as male. So there's actually 2.3 times more women than men with this personality type.
What does this say about gender roles and expectations for ESFJs, especially male ESFJs?
That's a great question. Since the ESFJ represents the epitome of femininity in many Western cultures, a male ESFJ may, in certain environments, be almost like a fish out of water. In the workplace, for example, male ESFJs I've known are more concerned with the needs of others, for example, others they work with or their staff, than they are in being in charge. ESFJ men don't necessarily have an effeminate demeanor, and I don't mean to imply this. But like all ESFJs, ESFJ men will present as gregarious and a genuine pleasure to be around. So for our listeners who are interested in learning more about gender statistics and the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, I encourage you to check out www.cpp.com.
So no matter where we go, we're likely to run into more than a few ESFJs. And that's probably a good thing, as they seem to be genuinely hard-working people. The types of employees any organization would value.
Yes, indeed, and they're very respectful of authority, so they'll often excel in organizations with a hierarchy.
Let's talk about the cognitive functions for ESFJs. Again, the cognitive functions are the middle two letters in one's Myers-Briggs type. In the case of ESFJs, this would be sensing and feeling.
Right, the dominant function for ESFJs is extroverted feeling. This is called a judging function, so it's all about making decisions that are in line with group values, establishing and maintaining interpersonal relationships and external harmony, and expressing opinions as well as emotions to the external world. ESFJs are keenly aware of how other people are feeling. They'll also say and do things that will have a positive impact on others, and therefore they can be known as people pleasers.
People pleasers.
In all fairness, if someone or something goes against their values, they'll express this too. They genuinely enjoy holidays and traditions and will often see them using these as an excuse to socialize and bring other people together. ESFJs tend to be quite expressive and have big natural smiles.
So ESFJs are naturally friendly and helpful people. It also sounds like they may not enjoy doing things alone. Is that fair to say?
That is absolutely right. Most ESFJ's idea of a slow and painful death would be to be locked up alone in a room without any human contact. However, as they grow and develop, we often see changes in who the ESFJ chooses to spend time with. They nurture their most important relationships, and while they're still energized by being around others, they also appreciate their own personal space more than they may have when they were younger.
And speaking of younger, in their later years, it sounds like ESFJs are still guided by their values for connecting with others, just in a slightly different way.
Good observation. The extroverted feeling of the ESFJs works with their auxiliary or secondary function, which is introverted sensing. This means that the ESFJ pays very close attention to what's happening in reality and is unlikely to add inventive details or to substitute details from their imaginations. This function is about collecting an internal set of data and comparing it with inner standards. ESFJs therefore tend to recall information literally, exactly as they learned it or experienced it.
I like that. That's very interesting. So if I were working with an ESFJ, a good way to relate to them might be to ask them to share specifics about the projects they're working on, and especially the people they're working with. Since they're so attuned to others, I imagine a big part of their lives are the relationships they have.
That would be a great way to relate to an ESFJ coworker, yes. And I'd also like to add that giving positive feedback and demonstrating appreciation verbally would be good strategies too.
I'll have to remember this. I'm almost certain to come across a few ESFJs at some point. So, Edythe, how do the cognitive functions of extroverted feeling and introverted sensing work together? And how can they best be applied to a work environment for the ESFJ type?
Well, when used together, these functions often result in a preference for work environments that are cooperative and values-oriented and doing something for the greater good while operating on facts and realities and experiential rather than theoretical activities with others.
That's excellent. Now, Edythe, could you talk about the strengths that ESFJs will bring to a work environment?
Absolutely. First, compassionate and friendly. ESFJs radiate warmth and generally have no trouble fitting in at school and work. They have this boundless enthusiasm and a sensitivity towards others, and they inspire enthusiasm in return. Second, organized and thorough. ESFJs are perhaps at their best when they're organizing others to get a job done. They take their responsibilities seriously and they're committed to them. They respect rules and authority. One ESFJ woman told me, as soon as there's something to be done, get out of my way. I'll have it done long before the deadline. I've got to do some work before I relax. A final strength of many ESFJs I know is that they're tactful and cooperative. ESFJs are great at anticipating the needs of others and handling them with warmth and efficiency. They're also fabulous networkers and just seem to have this inborn knack for communicating with all types of people, even making strangers feel at ease.
These are great qualities to have in a colleague, as well as a boss. I imagine someone who's cheering you on rather than criticizing you. On the other hand, I'm sure there are times that ESFJs can take their warmth and commitment too far.
Well, any attribute when overused can become a liability, and for many of us, overusing our natural preferences can happen when we're under a great amount of stress. So just like with any other type, there's some areas for improvement within the ESFJ type. For any feelers, criticism, no matter how constructive, is going to be a problem. Therefore, one of the biggest issues for ESFJs is giving or receiving constructive feedback. When their work is criticized, even constructively, ESFJs may feel demoralized until they get it right, and they're acknowledged for getting it right. Because they tend to personalize feedback at work, for example, it's important for ESFJs to know what the expectations are so that they can work to meet them. They also may have a tendency to over-harmonize in an attempt to smooth things over and or avoid conflict. More than perhaps any other type, harmony is central for ESFJs. When harmony is absent, ESFJs will tend to sweep the stress under the rug, questioning the seriousness of the situation, believing that displays of affection or overt gestures will make the stress go away. However, there are some instances when allowing conflicts to occur can actually be more productive. So a strategy for this is to learn to appreciate that conflict may actually help coworkers to understand each other better and to work more effectively together. ESFJs may also assume they know best. Sometimes ESFJs appear bossy and rigid in stating their opinions about what others ought to do or what they think is best for others. When they become overly domineering, this unfortunately may cause them to destroy the very relationships they've worked so hard to build. To better understand others around them, ESFJs should try to put themselves into the minds of others before making judgments. Likewise, they should be consciously aware of their tendencies to dismiss anything that doesn't fit neatly into their value system. In fact, what others do may work perfectly well for them, even if they're using a new or different approach.
It's interesting to hear how we can inadvertently sap the morale of others. I can imagine someone like myself who is naturally interested in original ideas and might unintentionally criticise. I might come across as really annoying to ESFJs, who it sounds like are more apt to be suspicious of anything new and dislike change.
It might present some challenges to work with someone so different, yes, but it can also present some great opportunities for professional growth, too.
Which brings us nicely to specific careers, which is probably what many of our ESFJ listeners are waiting for. So, Edythe, how do ESFJs best use their preferences when they're searching for a career? And are there certain career fields that are more attractive to ESFJs?
Regardless of the career field they choose, as we've mentioned, ESFJs tend to be conservative by nature and work best within existing organizations rather than startups that have clear expectations and goals. The career paths most often chosen by ESFJs fall into 6 categories: healthcare, business, social service, education, service and customer service, and office and clerical. One area ESFJs might find particularly satisfying is healthcare. Possible career choices within this category include family physician, nurse, dentist, medical administrator, optometrist, and speech pathologist. The appeal in healthcare is the ability to work directly with others in a helping profession, making the lives of others easier or less painful.
The careers you mentioned are also really hands-on and practical, which I'm assuming would appeal to the sensing side of the ESFJ personality.
Absolutely. That's also the reason that business careers are appealing to ESFJs too. In this area, careers in real estate, banking, sales, public relations, or careers as an office manager or account executive are all working with tangible as opposed to intangible systems. These careers also require excellent interpersonal skills and the ability to meet many different types of people, all of which are areas in which most ESFJs excel.
Interesting use of the words tangible and intangible. We've been hearing a lot about the people skills and helping nature of ESFJs. I'm thinking that another path would be careers in social service.
Yes, social worker, community welfare worker, counselor, clergy, and religious educator all appeal to ESFJ's sense of community and civic duty. We'll also see many ESFJs actively involved in volunteer work that supports their values. The personal connections, helping others overcome problems in concrete and practical ways to become productive in society, this is all very rewarding to ESFJs. Education is appealing to ESFJs for very similar reasons. Elementary school teacher, special education teacher, child care provider, and athletic coach are all careers that teach basic skills and require direct involvement. ESFJ's natural exuberant energy is a real motivator for kids. There's also a great deal of structure required in classroom management and schools, and creating and maintaining structure is second nature to many ESFJs.
Yeah, I can understand how those careers would be especially appealing to ESFJs. It sounds like a natural use of their talents.
Yes, that's very true. I'm also going to mention service and customer service here. Careers in this category would include customer service representative, cosmetologist and hair designer, caterer, fundraiser, and flight attendant. ESFJs often gravitate towards careers in the service industry because of the ability to work directly with people, providing a service or experience that makes life easier or less stressful. Many of these careers require dependability in a crisis, attention to detail, and displays of sensitivity and concern for others.
And finally,
office and clerical positions, such as administrative assistant, receptionist, and bookkeeper, require the ability to perform routine tasks with accuracy, often as part of a team or on behalf of a team. Being around others is essential to ESFJs. Working alone is very draining for them.
We've had some great information here. Now, is there anything else you'd like the mid-career ESFJs to know as they think about which career fields would be most satisfying?
The occupations and career paths I mentioned are not meant to be a comprehensive list. They're examples of careers many ESFJs find satisfying, along with reasons why. We can find successful ESFJs in other fields, too.
Something that's important to remember. Now, any final thoughts, Edythe?
The information in this podcast is based on my own knowledge of type theory and experience with the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. I'd also like to cite some references for this information. Type Talk by Otto Kroger, Do What You Are by Paul Teeger and Barbara Barron-Teeger, and Life Types by Jean Kumaro and Sandra Hirsch.
That's great. Many thanks for sharing your expertise, Edythe. I'm sure this information has been helpful to ESFJs who are considering a career change, as well as people who know or work with ESFJs. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and of course our website, where you can sign up for our newsletter at www.atopcareer.com. Feel free to share this file with your friends. Until next time. MBTI and Myers-Briggs are registered trademarks of the MBTI Trust.